83 days, over 1,400 innings played. You don't remember every pitch, every out, or even every hit. In baseball, you don't even remember games. You remember moments. The last two nights, the Twins have delivered those memorable moments with two walk-off winners. Tonight here at Target Field, it's the much-anticipated Major League debut of one of Minnesota's most prized prospects. Twins fans are ready for this moment to become a long-lasting memory. There he is, number 17, Jose Berrios, a first-round draft pick from Puerto Rico. And he is on the Major League mound for the first time. He's played in some bigger than normal games on bigger than normal stages with his appearances in the WBC and in the Futures game before the All-Star game.
He's been in the last two future games, so yeah, I mean, he's pitched that one inning here at Target Field, so this is not a new mound to him.
And the Cleveland Indian lineup has Carlos Santana, the designated hitter, leading off. Then the second baseman Jason Kipnis, Francisco Lindor, Michael Brantley, Mike Napoli, Yan Gomes, Jose Ramirez, Marlon Byrd, Tyler Naquin. It'll be interesting when Lindor comes to the plate because he and Berrios are good friends. Played a lot of baseball against each other and together on the same team back in Puerto Rico.
Well, with Santana and Gibson going on a disabled list, this was Gibson's outing here tonight, but put on a disabled list, opened the door for Berrios to make his Major League Day start. 6 members of his family here: mom, dad, brother, sister, wife, and daughter.
Strike one on the outside corner.
As you mentioned, Dick Berrios, only 21 years old. He'll turn 22 next month.
Up and away. You saw a 92-mile-per-hour fastball, that at 94, and once he relaxes a little bit, you might see another mile or two harder than that. And a base hit into center field with Santana stroking a single to center. And that'll bring up Jason Kipnis.
Well, you always remember your first Major League hitter. Now watch this pitch right here, fastball that stayed up. And Santana hitting it right back up the middle.
And so now Jason Kipnis will bat. The one thing that Berrios did, I don't know if this makes any sense, his climb through the system was gradual yet rapid. He didn't skip any levels. He went from one to the next and either excelled or dominated all the way up the ladder. Ball one. So he is here on merit and out of necessity, as you said, with a couple of veterans going on the disabled list.
You know what's going to be important for Kurt Suzuki too right here tonight, kind of settle this young man down, because I tell you what, I've been there. Sometimes you can't breathe out there. Your heart's pumping 100 miles an hour.
Santana goes and Suzuki double clutches. It's a stolen base for Carlos Santana.
His second stolen base, and Berrios not really paying much attention to him, and Suzuki had a little trouble getting the ball out of his glove. You can see Santana going on first movement. Right there, a little double clutch.
2-0 now to Kipnis. Squaring to bunt, and he bunts it foul. Indians being walked off twice here at Target Field in the first 2 games, trying to do some early damage against the rookie pitcher. There's Laz Diaz, Ben May, Jeff Nelson, Doug Eddings on the bases. Two and one to Kipnis. Changeup would look like. A really good spot. A swing and a miss. 2-2.
He's, he was voted in the minor leagues in the Twins system to having the best curveball and the best changeup, along with a very good fastball. In his minor league career, outstanding control.
And a fastball down and in, gets a tapper foul. That at 96. He's 6 feet tall. He's not 190 pounds. So where does that 96-mile-per-hour velocity come from?
Well, you know what? The Dodgers back in '88, they signed a kid from Dominican Republic. His name was Pedro Martinez. And he was about 5'11", about 170 pounds. Tremendous leg push off right there.
Another changeup and a dribbler foul.
A lot of it too is Dick is just the speed of his arm, how quick he can get that arm through. Some guys throw slow right there. The quickness of releasing that ball.
He's having to work a lot here in this first inning. This will be his 10th pitch. Still looking for his first out. And that was the breaking ball.
Yeah, that was kind of flat right there. And again, that's just from rushing a little bit. Take a look at the breaking ball. Usually you want it to go, north to south, and that kind of stayed right there. He looks calm, but believe me, he's not.
Got him with a high, tight fastball. A strikeout, one away.
And in the minor leagues, Berríos over 9 innings, averaging 9.5 strikeouts. So not a lot of emotion from his family, but there's the first out for Berríos. Good fastball, and Kipnis swings through.
Francisco Lindor, a few months older than Berríos. And up and away, ball one. Both from Puerto Rico.
Yep, both from Puerto Rico. Yep. Hopefully they'll be seeing a lot of each other over the years to come.
And outside 2-0.
Saw a little movement on that fastball, the two-seamer.
Came back from 2-0 to strike out Kipnis. Now to Lindor. Nice stop by Sano to his left. Throws him out. Sano spearing a hot ground ball for out number 2.
It's a nice play by the big man right there. He was playing in for the possible bunt from Lindor and just kind of falls to his left. Look how quick he just goes to his left, reaches out, able to get that ball in his glove, and gets the out at first base. Nice defensive play.
Well, now this winter, Berríos will be able to say to Lindor, yeah, I got you on a 2-hopper. The fact that it was scorched probably won't be brought up, at least not by the pitcher. 2 down, and now here's Michael Brantley.
An out is an out.
That's right. There's strike 1 at 94.
Brantley started his first game last night, went 0 for 4. He did pinch hit here the other night. Brantley just activated a couple days ago, recovering from right shoulder surgery he had in November of last year.
Tapper to the right side, and a good inning for Jose Berríos. His first major league inning as a scoreless inning. And Barrios got through the first inning with just the leadoff single, stranding a runner at second. Paul Molitor hoping that the Twins can complete a sweep over the Indians as they swept the Angels a couple weeks ago. The Menards batting order: Danny Santana, followed by Brian Dozier, then Joe Mauer, Miguel Sano, Young Ho Park, Oswaldo Arcia, Eduardo Nunez, Kurt Suzuki, and Eddie Rosario.
And on the mound for the Indians, it'll be right-handed pitcher Josh Tomlin, 31 years old. Now, he's making only his third start. He was a fifth starter coming out of spring training, but because of off days and some rainouts that the Indians had, his first start came on April 16th, and both his starts have been outstanding. 2-0 so far in total of 11 2/3 innings.
Danny Santana with 3 hits last night. He takes up and away ball 1. Santana with the 3 hits, getting the batting average up to 300. This ball hit to the right field corner. Down for a hit. Santana flies around first. On his way to second with a leadoff double. This is the type of play we saw from Santana 2 years ago.
Well, he jumped on that fastball right there, and the game starting off for the Twins as it did last night when Santana led off with a double. And scored on Dozier's RBI. So you see the fastball left up by Tomlin, and Santana turning it into that corner. His second double.
In the ball game last night, Dozier scored a run with a right field single. One of his 3 hits, all of them going to the opposite field. Tapped foul.
Now, Tomlin, not an overpowering right-hander. He's gone through some surgeries. He's been on a disabled list 5 different times in his career. He's had the Tommy John surgery. Then in April last year, he had right shoulder surgery, which kind of put him, behind the 8 ball for a while, but finished very strong for the Indians last year. But he has all 4 pitches: fastball, curveball, slider, and changeup.
Dozier takes away 1-1.
Tomlin has not had a lot of success against the Twins, especially here at Target Field. In 3 starts, he is 0-2 with a 7.71 earned run average. He's 2-4 over his career in 7 starts.
Tight. 2-1. Dozier with 3 home runs, 1 off the team lead by Byung Ho Park. Nubbed back to the mound, fumbled by the pitcher, and Tomlin fires low, and Napoli makes a nice catch for the first out.
Yeah, good reaction by Napoli right there. Tomlin maybe had a little more time, but he kind of hurried his throw. But they do get the out, and Santana has to stay at second.
Time now for tonight's Toyota Key Stat. Joe Mauer reached 3 times last night with a hit and 2 walks, and all the other guys are in the other league. Joe Mauer leading the American League in on-base percentage. A double, driving in a run to left field, a walk, and then an intentional walk in front of the game-winning hit by Sano.
Joe has been on base in all 21 of the Twins games so far this year.
Inside, ball 1.
One thing that has really picked up: runners in scoring position. The Twins are hitting a lot better over the last 5 ball games. They're hitting .387 as a ball club. 12 hits in 31 chances.
-2-0. That was the biggest issue during the 9-game losing streak to open the season. Pitching staff was okay. Defense was okay. There were no clutch hits. Weren't many hits to begin with, and hardly any with men on base.
Joe, good numbers against Tomlin. 7 hits in 16 at-bats. It counts in his favor.
Outside corner's called, and it's 2-1. Want to take advantage of the leadoff double here. Dozier didn't advance Santana. Sano on deck. Three and one.
And as a pitcher like Tomlin, you go in and you know that Joe Mauer's had good success. It's still early in the ball game, but here's a 3-1 count. See what he does. Does he challenge Joe right here, or does he try to throw another breaking ball that he got the strike called on the outer half of the plate?
And a walk will put Mauer aboard. And there'll be two men on for Sano, who ended the game last night with a game-winning hit to center.
Yeah, against Cody Allen, a closer, jumped on that fastball and lined it into center field for the game-winning RBI. Twins ended up beating the Indians 6-5.
So Sano with a chance to do some early damage here. Strike one. Mauer's on a pace to walk more than 100 times for the first time in his career, and that will change when Sano starts driving the ball more consistently with maybe the warmer weather, whatever it will take. He's certainly coming around as of late. Strike two. Cold hard facts brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light. Sano with 46.5% of his balls put in play are line drives. In other words, teams are not going to walk Joe Mauer when Sano starts picking up more extra base hits.
But you know, the Twins got off to such a slow start. Everybody was putting pressure on themselves to be the guy to get them that first win. And now that they've got some wins, they're playing better.
Driven to center. Naquin going back. Still going back. That ball hits the wall. One run will score. It's a ground rule double for Sano, as he drives one off the warning track to drive in Santana from second base.
Joe Mauer has to go back to third base because of the ground rule double. And Sano picking up an RBI on his third double of the year, and RBI number 10. Take a look at the pitch right here. Breaking ball stayed right there, and Sano, you can see the strength that he has. Straight away center, and then hitting the warning track and bouncing out. We're hoping it would hit the fence and stay in play. Mauer would have scored.
Young Ho Park with two men in scoring position and one out. Over the missing low. I beg your pardon. Ball one.
Park a couple doubles in last night's win over the Indians.
And he takes another one low. 2-0. Sano, or a Park rather.
Yeah, he was guessing right there. He was
Spins
guessing.
out.
Yeah. The ball was almost on the other side of the plate. He was definitely guessing, maybe fastball.
2-1.
Nothing wrong with that. Hitters do guess. You just guessed wrong. Do it all the time.
Kind of like you in math.
Yeah. Get a couple, right?
Park pops it up to right field. Mauer tagging from third. Marlon Byrd is the right fielder, and the throw will come toward third base. Mauer scores. It's 2-0. The Indians unable to play Lonnie Chisenhall tonight because as Chisenhall made an attempt to make a catch, in the ball game the other day. He sprained his neck. And Chisenhall has a better arm than Marlon Byrd. Not that he would have had a chance to get Mauer, but might be a factor later on today. Chisenhall won't be playing tonight. It's 2-0.
Well, Park does his job. He drives in a run, his 6th run of the year, and it's a 2-0 Twins lead.
And now Oswaldo Arcia. Base hit right field. Sano scores, and it's 3-0. So a good start for the Twins against Tomlin, and the lead mounts for the 21-year-old rookie pitcher.
Yeah, and that makes Barrios breathe a little bit, but he knows what his job is. That ball, you can see that Gomes wants it in a little bit more. Arcia going down and hitting it sharply into right field as Sano scores.
And 7th man to bat, Eduardo Nunez. And an off-speed pitch on the outside corner, a strike. Nunez in at short. Eduardo Escobar has been struggling at the plate a little bit, so Nunez gives him a break tonight. Twins have an off day tomorrow. Pretty good bet that, low throw, and that gets by the first baseman, Napoli. And Arcia will round second and go to third. An error charge to Tomlin. And the Twins have another runner in scoring position.
Tomlin very good as far as holding on runners. Not too many successful steals against him, but this one, you see short hops Napoli and gets behind Arcia, and then it ricochets off the wall and heads up toward right field. Arcia scoots over to third.
Napoli, a Gold Glove finalist at first base last year, but not much he can do about that one. No. One strike to Nunez. Off the end of the bat, another comebacker to the mound. Nunez retired, but the Twins strike for 3 in the first.
In the first 3 runs of support for Jose Barrios as he starts his 2nd inning in his major league debut. A few things to look for tonight with Barrios. A little scouting report. Twins pitching coach Neil Allen told me he has to locate his fastball to both sides of the plate effectively and aggressively. Irvin Santana said Barrios has a lot of life in his fastball, even when he's just playing catch with him. Irvin said it's very heavy, and that's something that he can use to break a lot of hitters' bats. Paul Molitor said that any guy who comes up often thinks that he has to do something differently than he did at AAA because he'll be facing better hitters. But Molitor said Berríos just has to trust what he has because that is what got him here. Dick and Bert.
Thank you, Marty. A fastball down and away, ball one. I suppose it's natural. You get called up and you want to snap off a better curveball because the hitters up here are better than they were at AAA. 1-1.
I tell you what, the 3 runs really help him a lot to take a deep breath, and now even against Napoli right there, just kind of overthrowing the fastball when Napoli swings through it.
2-1. Ooh, hit him. Changeup that sailed inside, and Napoli will take first base. Land Ford defense for the Twins. Eddie Rosario is in left field. Danny Santana in center. Oswaldo Arcia at right. Sano and NUNEZ left side of the infield. Dozier, Mauer on the right side, and Suzuki behind the plate. Leadoff man got on in the first, and now the leadoff man has been put on by a hit by pitch in the second. Here's Yan Gomes. Pitch in the dirt, saved by Suzuki. Pitches, 12 strikes for Berríos. There's a breaking ball over.
He missed with the first one, came back with it, and got it over.
Foul back 1-2. I'd like to think, wouldn't you, that Berríos comes into this game and Suzuki caught up maybe a time or two in spring training, but he'll just trust his catcher here, right?
Yeah, you have to trust your catcher. They go over the hitters before the ball game, but yeah, Kurt has to take charge here tonight. Coming back with a breaking ball.
Missing low.
Gomes laid off of it. My first catcher was George Meadowall, and I know I didn't shake him off wherever he wanted. I wish I'd shaken that 3-2 pitch to Lee May off.
Ooh.
Take that.
Gomes hacks an off-speed pitch foul.
Well, Gomes pretty good fastball hitter.
He has yet to ground into a double play this year.
Staying with a breaking ball.
And lifted foul out of play. Berríos got 2 ground ball outs in the first inning and a strikeout.
A lot of breaking balls, just that 92-mile-an-hour fastball. Everything else has been off speed to curveball. Oh boy.
Missed down and in, and it's a full count.
I don't know if he missed down and in. Looked like a pretty good pitch right there. Suzuki sitting inside.
Ooh.
Yep. Wow.
Full count. Napoli's probably not going anywhere. High pop-up. Very high pop-up. Dozier with the catch. 1 down. And that'll bring up Jose Ramirez.
See Kurt Suzuki talking to Laz Diaz right there, maybe about that, not that last pitch, but the previous pitch, saying, come on, we need that pitch. Is it begging? Of course it is.
But it's better that the catcher does it than the pitcher.
Exactly. Exactly.
Outside, and Suzuki has to lunge to make the catch. Ball one.
Saw the movement on that fastball right there. Take a look at the two-seamed fastball.
Whoa. Looked like it had 2.5 feet of lateral movement. Change up over. Well, you'd like to see that, don't you? I mean, it's a fastball count. He's trying to get into a rhythm here, and he falls behind with the fastball. Comes back with a change up for a strike.
Credit Suzuki. You know, he's working in all three of his pitches, and in a hitter's count where they're looking fastball, he threw that curveball to Gomes to even the count 1-1. And right there, Ramirez, you know, pretty good hitter, especially as a left-handed hitter. Probably looking dead red, meaning fastball. Threw him the changeup to even the count.
Down and in, not close. Fastball seems to be jumping all over the place.
And that's always the key. Always the key. It's the fastball. Control the fastball. And again, still the nerves are still there. They will be throughout the ballgame. And now the little wiggle, the two-seamer.
Swing and a miss.
Now you saw the little finger wiggle of Suzuki. That means the two-seamer. This one here, he controlled a little bit better. You can still see some run on that pitch. It was just up a little bit. He gets that ball down, might get a ground ball. Here's a curveball.
And a number back to the mound. Barrios throws low. Nice pickup by Nunez. He won't get a chance to double up Ramirez, but Nunez did a great job keeping that ball from skipping into center field.
Yes, he did. You know, as a pitcher, you know that ball's when it comes back to you. You know who's covering, and I think he saw the excitement. He wants to turn this so quickly. And you're right. Very nice pick by Nunez. They do get the force out at second.
Now Marlon Byrd will bat. Byrd off to a good start with the Indians. Lonnie Chisenhall not expected to be available because he injured his neck. Nothing major, but it's sore when he tried to make a diving catch on Brian Dozier's pop fly hit yesterday. Step off and a look over.
You know, you look at a Byrd and you think, you know, here's a guy that's got a lot of major league at bats. How many times has he faced somebody for the first time that's making their major league debut? He's been with 10 different organizations.
Inside, and he's Barrios, even though he hasn't given up a run, just one hit and a hit batter. He's kind of been all over the place.
Yeah, too many pitches right now. Get deep into the ball game. You need, after 3 innings, about 40-45 pitches.
Fly ball, center field.
Harmless.
Santana retreats, slams on the brakes, inning over. Leadoff man on again. Orioles has had to throw most of his pitches tonight from the stretch. Sports North is presented by CenturyLink. Switch to CenturyLink Prism TV for an advanced TV experience. Learn more at cprismtv.com. A 3-0 start for the Twins. They're hoping to sweep the Indians 3-0. And Kurt Suzuki will lead off the second. The Rosario and Santana after the Suzuki at bat.
Yeah, Suzuki, good night at the plate last night. First 2 at-bats, drove in a run. 2 for 4 in the ball game.
Up and in, ball 1. Two and 0. Tomlin had a rocky first inning, struggled with his control a little bit.
5 days ago in Detroit, he pitched a whale of a ball game. 6 2/3 innings, only 4 hits allowed, 1 run. Win in that ball game.
Cut off by Ramirez. He comes up firing. Good play by the Cleveland third baseman.
Yeah, a couple of youngsters playing the short and third here tonight. Ramirez only 23, Lindor only 22.
Take a look at the Indians out of the field. Michael Brantley in left. Tyler Naquin in center. Marlon Byrd in right. Ramirez, Lindor, both with range on the left side of the infield. Kipnis and Napoli right side. Gomes behind the plate.
Nice play right there by Ramirez.
Eddie Rosario batting. 1 strike.
Eddie hitting his 3rd home run last night in the 6th inning.
Little left field corner foul. Maybe we should make the distinction. Rosario also from Puerto Rico. He was a 4th round draft pick. Players from Puerto Rico are eligible for the draft. Players from the Dominican Republic, Venezuela are signed, scouted and signed independent of the draft. Way out in front, Rosario with a feeble swing and a strikeout, out number 2. And that'll bring up Danny Santana.
And Tomlin picks up his first strikeout.
Santana from the Dominican Republic. He was simply signed back in 2007. And in the belief, the hope that players from Cuba will have more open access to the major leagues here. It'll be interesting under what condition. Probably, I would guess, not eligible for the draft. Here's a drive to center. That's hit a long way. Naquin in the gap about 400 feet from home plate. Makes the catch on the edge of the warning track in a 1-2-3 second.
He's going to pitch a long time in the big leagues, barring injury. And, like I said, he works his butt off the 4 days To be a successful pitcher, a starter, you have to work as hard as you do on the 5th day, the first 4 days, and he does that. He's the first guy here. He's running, doing all his weights, and like I said, he watches the game. He studies the other team, and you know, whenever we speak, he absorbs it like a sponge, and that's what you want out of a player.
Nice to hear, isn't it? A young man who's got all the talent in the world, but apparently the proper approach as well.
I love the interviews that he talked about coming to the big leagues. He wants to do it for him and his family. You know, you always hear that more, I think, from the guys from the Dominican and Venezuela and Puerto Rico. The importance of what family is to them. And he's pitching here tonight with his mom and dad in the stands, his wife, daughter, brother, sister. It's really cool.
Trying to get some spike or dirt out of his spikes. Either that or he's really mad at the pitching rubber. Well, he was drafted 4 years ago at the age of 17.
And the 32nd overall pick in that draft. He was in that compensation draft that when the Twins lost Michael Kadire. They got a 1st-round draft pick, and they picked Barrios. Excuse me, Barrios.
Aquin fouls the first pitch away. Barrios would like to get the leadoff batter and throw some more pitches from the windup. Swing and a miss.
Good fastball middle in there.
There was a leadoff single in the first and a stolen base. Santana was at second, nobody out, but Barrios pitched out of it. He hit Napoli leading off the second and left him at first base. Check swing, 1-2.
Another good fastball. That's more the 4-seam fastball that he'll run in. And we've seen what the 2-seamer can do down and away. So utilizing both fastballs.
And off the plate, 2-2. You know, it's 94, but he doesn't look like a max effort guy. I mean, the ball just comes flying out of his hand. It's not like he's grunting or exerting himself. At least it doesn't look that way. And fouled away.
He talks, you know, I talk so much about pushing off of that pitching rubber and utilizing the foundation that you have no matter what sport you play, the leg strength. And the arm strength is a bonus, but it's also the whip of that arm. How quick can you get that arm through?
Up and in.
Take a look how he sets himself on the first base side of the pitching rubber and then pushes off. And then the follow through. You see the right leg coming over the left, not recoiling, getting through that. Right there, your momentum. I always think of Brad Radke. I thought Brad Radke always had a great delivery to where he landed with the left foot, and then Radke, Bob Gibson, guys that I watched a lot, follow through, get that arm through. If you recoil, your arm is maybe a foot or two closer to your body rather than extension.
Well, leadoff walk, leadoff man on again, and Aquin runs well. Sanford Health injury report. The Twins putting 2 of their starting 5 from the beginning of the season on the disabled list. Gibson with a shoulder strain. Structurally, everything is fine. Santana bent over to pick up a baseball in Washington and tweaked his back, and it just hasn't tweaked yet. Sanford Health injury report. Here's Santana. Lined a single, stole a base on the first. Strike call. First pitch like a changeup.
Yep, changeup at 84.
And Santana asks for time. ball off the plate, 1-1.
Yeah, just rushing a little bit. He was ahead of Nygwin. 0-2 and ended up walking him.
And an off-speed pitch over for a strike. Second time he's backed up a curveball with another one, right?
Right. And, you know, in a hitter's count, too. You know, I know it's 1-1, but Santana, very good fastball hitter. He dropped that curveball over.
Twins shifting the infield here with 2 strikes on Santana. Nunez swung over to the right side of second base from our vantage point. And Sano standing where a shortstop might normally stand.
Fastball in, 4-seamer.
Driven into the right field corner, a base hit. Nick went around second on his way to third. And the Indians have runners at first and third now with nobody out in the third inning.
You know, you're ahead in a count, and that catcher wants it in. You want to get it way in there. You want to get it in. You see where that ball left out over the plate. And Santana waited back nicely. Hit it into right field. Gets his second hit.
Barrios now needs to get an out. First and third, nobody out. He struck out Kipnis. Kipnis was at the plate for most of his at bat with Santana at second and nobody out. And Barrios got a big early strikeout, his only strikeout of the game so far. Off the plate, ball 1.
Santana stole second base in that first inning.
So Barrios wants to pay him some attention. And a changeup floating over for a strike. This will be his 50th pitch. He's thrown 29 strikes so far. Breaking ball wide of the plate, 2-1. Doesn't seem to have real good command of the breaking ball. I don't know, is the cold weather factor in that?
It could, but I think everything's keyed off the fastball. He doesn't have good command of his fastball. And you're going to be excited the whole ball game, this young man.
And now 2-2. He struck out Kipnis with a up and in fastball.
Try it again.
Chip down the left field line. And Rosario has it go a couple rows back in the seats. The Kipnis strike 3 might have been the only swing and miss that Barrios has had. A lot of foul balls. Clicker keeps on clicking. 52 pitches already for Barrios. He has gotten so far just 6 outs. Hoping to get a ground ball hit at someone.
Curveball, but you better keep it down. Yeah, it was down. Saw Kipnis in yesterday's ball game. Got a curveball up and he lined it into right field. Waits back nicely.
Struck him out with a breaking ball. 1 down.
Well, second strikeout for Berríos, and both of them the Kipnis. A tighter spin right there. Good break on that one.
Every out that Berríos has gotten tonight has come from the stretch. And he needs to get 2 more here. Lindor hit a hot smash fielded by Sano, who threw him out for the second out of the first inning. So driven to the gap in left center field. Santana over, can't make the play, and it'll run to the wall or to the warning track. And 1 run will score, and the second run will come to the plate. It's 2-0 or 3-2 on a double by Lindor. Kept slicing away from Santana.
Pretty good hitting, what I think, by Lindor right there. Looked like he took a pitch down. Santana hopping around a little bit, but that just hit it the other way.
Santana, remember, tried to track a ball in Kansas City and pulled his hamstring.
Well, I meant Carlos Santana. Look at that. That's not a bad pitch right there. Santana just can't catch up to it. It gets by him, and that allows Santana, who was at first base, to score.
Tying run at second, 1 down, and now Michael Brantley. Brantley looking for his first hit. Sent the ball in the air to the outfield most of the time. He bounced out to Dozier to end the first inning. Down and away, ball 1. Leadoff walk. Santana with a single. Lindor with a 2-run double. Lead's been trimmed to 1. Fastball back in the strike zone, 1-1. Missing the inside corner with a fastball. 2-1. Shaking his head from side to side.
Yeah.
Another foul ball. He has thrown 36 strikes. It just seems like 20 of them have been foul balls. Two and 2 to Brantley. Brantley chops and foul. Stands to reason it'll take Brantley a little while to catch up with big league pitching. Shoulder surgery in the offseason. Getting started late. Napoli on deck.
Well, he hit .310 last year for the Indians in 137 ball games. Drove in 84 runs.
Got him.
And a backdoor breaking ball.
Third strikeout for Berríos. 2 down.
Brantley kind of gave up on it.
April 29th is wrestling night here at Target Field. A limited number of wrestling night theme night tickets packages are available that include a game ticket and a Twins wrestling match. The VIP package is available that includes private meet and greet opportunities with 4 legendary pro wrestlers. Go to twinsbaseball.com/wrestling night to learn more. Napoli takes a strike. Now it seems he's got better control of the breaking ball than he does the fastball. fastball for a strike at 94. He has had to struggle from the first batter on, trying to get out of this third inning with the lead. Got him. He ends up striking out the side. The Indians get 2 back on a walk and a pair of hits. Ball on Fox Sports North is presented by T-Mobile. Get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE in the last year. Time for the lineup to get back to work. A 3-2 ball game. And Brian Dozier will lead off the bottom of the third for the Twins.
Yeah, when you have the lead like the Twins did, 3-0, and then the Indians put 2 on the board, you're thinking as an offensive team now, let's get those 2 runs back.
Dozier tapped back to the mound. He'll be followed by Mauer and Sano. Off the plate, ball 1. Bunted in the air, and Gomes with the catch. 1 down. Marty Gellner's got some very special Target Field customers.
I do, and the number keeps growing. 16 members of Jose Barrios' family is here. Wife Yanalise, daughter Valentina, mom Magali, dad Angel, among the guests. How exciting is this tonight?
Qué emocionante es esto hoy.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. What is it like to watch your son pitch in the big leagues?
Es amazing también.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And mom, pelón.
¿Qué tan feliz te sientes de ver a José aquí?
Súper contenta de que haya podido lograr lo que para lo que él siempre trabajó.
Yeah, I'm super happy to see him here. He worked so hard for this dream, and I'm just happy to see him here.
Good luck to all of you. Congratulations. Enjoy this night. Dick and Bert, I can tell you, there have been a lot of screams coming from this area. The universal language. We know when Barrios strikes a batter out, that's for sure, from the family.
Very nice. Thank you, Marty. Great job.
2 down.
Thank
quickly.
Carlos for helping.
Carlos Pop, the translator for the Hispanic ball players. J.D. Kim, the translator for Byung Ho Park. Here is Miguel Sano. 2 very quick outs. The type of inning that Barrios would like to get, maybe in the 4th. Here is Sano. Drove in a run with a double his last time up. Got to take a pitch, at least one here, and he takes one a strike.
Yeah, Tomlin, 21 pitches in the first, only 7 to get 3 outs in the second inning.
Since Arcea's single, he's retired 6 in a row, and now a ball hit to the left side. Nice stop again by Ramirez, and he comes up firing. And what, on 5 pitches? A 1, 2, 3 third. It's a 3-2 ball game. On Fox Sports North is presented by Northland Ford. Visit northlandford.com and your local Northland Ford dealer today. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here. Jose Barrios in his debut has been erratic, but he's got 4 strikeouts through 3 innings, and he struck out Napoli to end the 3rd.
Yeah, after striking out Brantley on a good curveball, he starts Napoli off with a good curveball. Then the good fastball Napoli took, and then the fastball up that Napoli swung through. So let's see him pitch out the stretch, or I mean the windup for a while. He's been in the stretch almost all game long.
Gomes popped up to Dozier's first time up. And down and away, ball 1.
He's trying to push that ball rather than just trusting and throwing the ball through the glove of Suzuki.
2-0. Everybody sure would like to see Barrios get his first win of the year, but he's got to complete 5 innings, and the pitch count might be a factor here before too long. 3-0. He had a very little time to sit in the dugout between innings here. The Twins were up for just what, 5 pitches in their 1, 2, 3 third inning. And there's a strike, 3-1.
Then you have to do it again. Yeah, he walked Nyquin to start last inning. He later scored. You got to get this guy to swing the bat right here.
Chopper to short.
There you go.
And Nunez lets Dozier play it. 1 down. Ramirez will hit. Join Fox Sports North at the next viewing party Tuesday, May 3rd, beginning at 6:30 p.m. at Carboni's in Burnsville. Watch Minnesota take on Houston. Enjoy food and drink specials. Register for tickets and prizes and more. Visit foxsportsnorth.com. Click on upcoming events on the Hot Topics bar. We trust that the sound will be on at the viewing party, and you'll be hearing yours truly and Jack Morris in Houston. Yep. Is there any reason that you don't go to Houston? It's just a coincidence, right?
No,
you don't
just
have,
a coincidence.
Okay. Swing and a miss, and it's 1-1. Mr. Blyleven's taking some time off after tonight's telecast. Breaking ball off the plate. 2-1.
Just a little time off, that's all.
Popped up 2-2.
Might have to work on my golf game a little bit.
You haven't done that here during this homestand?
No, it's been a little cold.
Four strikeouts, 3 swinging, 1 looking from Barrios. He'll try to get Ramirez here. Drive over the head of Sano toward the left field corner. And Rosario picks it up. And Ramirez tries for second. And he's out. Rosario with a one-hop throw and a nice pickup by Dozier to put the tag on.
You know, it almost looked like Rosario kind of deked him a little bit out in left field, like he kind of nonchalantly went after it. And then when he saw Ramirez round first, watch him right here. Just kind of okay. Oh yeah, okay. Now I can show off my cannon. And a nice pick by Dozier right there.
That was a tough short hop pickup.
Yep.
2 down. And even though Barrios has given up a hit here, he's got a chance to face just 3 men if he can get Marlon Byrd. Byrd hit a fly ball to Santana his first time up.
His first assist. Had a lot of them last year. And he's got a great accurate throwing arm. Rosario.
And strike 1. Byrd made the final out of the second inning. Swing and a miss. And it's 0-2.
That's more of a flatter curveball right there. We've seen a curveball that kind of goes from 12 to 6.
And a breaking ball gets a tapper, foul.
Just getting underneath that curveball a little bit. It's a little on the flat side. But again, you know, first major league start. You don't like giving up runs, but it's what you do after that. Now, get that fastball down and away.
Got him looking. And Byrd thought it was outside. Barrios has a 1-2-3 fourth inning.
Rosario. Everybody knows that he's got a Peyton Manning laser rocket for a right arm.
He loves when somebody attempts to run on him.
His throws are always on the money.
Strong, consistent.
Got a great release, very accurate.
I like to be on the receiving end of that arm because usually we're tagging somebody out. He's a playmaker. You know, he's got a cannon out there and he's accurate, which is the biggest thing. You can throw it as hard as you want, but if you're not accurate, it doesn't matter.
We saw the accuracy right there on that base hit by Ramirez.
What impressed me last year, and we just saw it there, the accuracy, even though he's going laterally. You know, I mean, it's one thing to charge a ball and let it fly and throw it on target to home plate, but when you can throw accurately going to your right and your left like Rosario's shown that he can do, well, that's a great asset to have.
Yes, it is.
1-1 to Byung Ho Park He drove in a run with a fly ball his first time up. Let's need to get something done again against Tomlin, who gets a swing and a miss on a breaking ball.
He's retired 7 straight since struggling in the first inning to get going. Well, he's got going now.
Chopper left side, easy play for Ramirez. One down.
Let's take another look at Eddie Rosario. Kind of sets up okay. Oh, he's going for 2, is he? Okay. And again, nice pick by Dozier right there. Ramirez is out.
Arcia lined the first pitch he saw for an RBI single to right. It's kind of ambushed Tomlin in the first inning, and they've done absolutely nothing against him since. Takes strike 1. 7th run batted in for Arcia. Two.
Now, Tomlin last year had that right shoulder surgery in April, and he came back at the end of the year and pitched very well. 7-2 at the last part of the season in 10 starts. ERA right around 3.
Nobody wants to play the Indians in the second half. They always seem to pitch really well in the second half. Cody Anderson came back last year and pitched really well for them at the end of the season. In other years, it's been Carrasco, Salazar. Kluber pitched well both halves when he won the Cy Young. Anderson, by the way, sent down after taking the, well, he didn't take the loss, but all tapped to the right side. Charging is Kipnis, and Arcia is out by a step, 2 down. That'll bring up Nunez, and it's time for our carsoup.com trivia question. When was the last time the Twins had walk-off wins in back-to-back games? They had what, the last homestand before the All-Star game last year, I think there were 3 walk-offs, 2 of them on Dozier home runs. So I'm going to say 2015. Here is Nunez, hit a comebacker to the mound, leaving Arcia at third base in the first. Not only have the Twins not had a base runner in their last 9 at bats, only 1 ball has left the infield. That was Santana's fly ball to center. Up and in. 1-1.
Well, 21 in the first, and then a 7 and a 5. 10 so far here in the fourth. He's retired 9 straight.
Driven to right. Bird back. Still back. Makes the catch in the warning track. Another 1-2-3. Relatively quick inning for Josh Tomlin.
Minnesota Lottery Winners Circle with our winners tonight. $100 worth of scratch-off tickets for Kirsten and Jordan from Chanhassen, Minnesota. Kirsten just had a birthday in March. She turned 19. Jordan bought her a gift of Twins tickets to tonight's game. So you're trooping it out. Get the slickers on, and apparently your relationship status is pretty important.
Oh yes, for sure. We're big fans.
You're big fans of Joe's?
Of course.
Does he know this?
I think he looked over once. I'm not quite sure though.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
You did?
Yes. How's the birthday present going so far, Kirsten?
It's a little chilly, but it's pretty good.
Okay, well, let's have a win to warm that up. How about that?
That's perfect.
Congratulations, lottery winners tonight. A big circle from Bert. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Yes, happy birthday. Thank you for being Twin fans.
And braving the elements tonight. Ball one, now ball two to Naquin. He drew a leadoff walk in the third when the Indians got their 2 runs. Berríos had a relatively quick inning in the fourth. He did give up a hit, but faced just 3 men, and he'd like to duplicate that here in the fifth.
You know, just unable to get that 2-seam sinking fastball. He's starting it on the outer half of the plate, and Suzuki's catching it off the plate. You have to almost set your sights more to the middle part of the plate and then let it do its natural thing, and that's to tail away to lefties. So that's a little adjustment you have to make during a ball game.
Every pitch he threw in the fourth inning was from the windup, and he'd like to keep doing that here in the fifth. Driven to left, and now he'll have another leadoff runner to contend with. Naquin with a base hit. Tying run aboard with nobody out. Only in Minnesota can you adventure, even kayak, the rugged shoreline of Lake Superior while discovering an historic Split Rock Lighthouse atop. Split Rock Lighthouse offers a spectacular panoramic view that attracts tourists and photographers from around the world to capture their artistic take on this already amazing landmark. Find endless ideas for the perfect getaway at exploreminnesota.com and share your favorites with #OnlyInMN.
See, this is where he needs that 2-seamer down and away, and it's about thigh high, so Suzuki's going to go out and talk to him.
Santana has a couple of hits. A quick trip to the mound by Suzuki, with the Twins trying to do what they can to get Berríos through the 5th inning. He needs to complete this inning to even qualify for a win.
And you see Neil Allen getting on the phone right there. 84 pitches. When you have a good 2-seamer like he does, and he just hasn't been able to find that good groove to where he can throw it at his glove. See, he's just getting underneath that pitch.
2-0. And he's just missing everything wide to all the left-handed batters. 3-0. Santana with 2 singles, including a single in the third that followed Naquin's walk.
Santana might have the green light right here.
And it's a 4-pitch walk. Tying run now in scoring position. Nobody out. Kipnis, who has struck out twice against Berríos, and Michael Tompkins quickly warming up in the bullpen. The Twins flex plan gives you the flexibility to choose your games and your number of seats. You can choose in advance or even the day of the game. Don't plan, flex plan. Go to twinsbaseball.com/flex or call 800-33-TWINS to learn more.
Neil Allen saying his piece right there.
And he has to speak quickly because he's only allowed 30 seconds now.
Time is up.
He used
got
it
to
all.
run off the field. I'm telling you, pitching coaches are in better shape than today's game. It's a lot quicker.
At a point in your life, you wanted to be a pitching coach. I'm guessing that's not the case anymore.
No,
you got to run.
No, get that.
Kipnis, a couple of swinging strikeouts with men on base.
Look for maybe Kipnis to try to lay down a bunt right here.
Down and away, another miss outside to a left-handed batter.
Boy, he has outstanding movement on that 2-seam sinking fastball, but as we mentioned, he's just having a tough time controlling it.
Fouled away, 1-1. 5 strikeouts for Barrios. He can sure use one here.
Surprised Kipnis isn't trying to bunt right here.
And that upstairs fastball has gotten swings and misses from Kipnis and Napoli.
Well, he struck out Kipnis in the first inning on that high fastball. Then he struck out Kipnis in the third on the curveball.
Not close. And it's 2-2. 91 pitches. And if Barrios is going to complete 5, he's going to have to start picking up some outs here. Breaking ball, a foul ball. I'll bet in his second start, and maybe it'll be warmer, but I'll bet we'll see a sharper breaking ball.
I think one thing he needs to work on is that two-seamer down and away, to throw it a little bit over the plate, to let the natural sink go. He's starting at outer half, and it's out of the strike zone.
Driven to the right field corner.
That ball hung right there.
A base hit. Arcia bobbles it momentarily, fires towards second base. It's a double, and we have a tie game. Nobody out here in the 5th.
That looked like a flat breaking ball right there, and Kipnis gets his first hit. Picking up his 9th RBI.
Lindor will bat.
Yeah, the breaking ball stayed right there. I said in Kipnis' last at bat, you leave a breaking ball up. He's a good breaking ball hitter. Hit a home run here on a breaking ball.
That'll be the end of the night. Credit Kipnis with a double, driving in a run. And Barrios, a lot of men on base in his major league debut. He pitches into, but not through the 5th inning.
He gets a nice standing ovation here by the crowd. You know, I mean, so much hype about this young man coming up at only 21 years old. Take the good with the bad, and this was a bad one. I know he's not happy, but knowing him, he's not going to give up.
The choice here is a little interesting. Lindor, a switch hitter, and then Brantley, a left-handed batter, but Lindor, a much better hitter from the right side than the left side. Michael Tonkin was warming up, but instead it's Fernando Abad who comes in to try to get the first out of the inning.
Yeah, Abad has been outstanding. 9 1/3 innings. He has 12 strikeouts. Only 3 walks, making his 10th relief appearance.
Lindor coming into the game with a .419 batting average from this side of the plate and .189 from the other side of the plate.
In the middle of the infield, playing back.
A foul. Abad's been good against righties, just giving up a .190 batting average. He's yet to give up a hit to a lefty. 1 strike to Lindor. He's playing the infield back in a tie game. And a foul tip, 2 strikes.
We mentioned it before. Abad, 30 years old, came to spring training, signed a minor league contract over the winter, made the club out of spring training. He's done a great job.
2 strikes. Just missed the outside corner. Not by much. Lindor protects the plate, flips it foul.
Yeah, Lindor in his rookie season last year as a right-handed hitter, he had .321. As a left-handed hitter, he had .308. Good hitter from both sides of the plate, even though he's struggling as a left-handed hitter so far this year.
On the ground to Dozier. Everybody will move up a base. The Indians will take the lead on the ground ball. It's 4-3.
And again, that pitch was down around the shoe level, and he just got the barrel of the bat on it and picked up his 3rd RBI of the ball game. Even that pitch he hit in the 3rd inning, the 2-run double was down. He just went the other way and hit the double to left center. Well, Lindor doing his job.
Infield in now. Runner at 3rd, 1 down. Brantley looking for his first hit since being activated. Abad against left-handers, holding them hitless in 9 at bats. 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Strike 1.
That's a good curveball there. We've seen Abad throw a pitch at 66 and then the fastball at 91, 92.
Suzuki asked for time. White Sox got their 5th shutout of this young season. 4-0 over Toronto.
Quintana tonight.
Missing inside, 1-1. The inside corner, 1-2.
If you live in Chicago, even though the White Sox won 4-0 and they've won what now 16 games, ask somebody on the street and they'll say, hey, how about those Cubbies?
That's right. Cubs lost today, or were postponed today, I beg your pardon. They won last night. 1-2. And foul out of play. Cubs with 15 wins, White Sox with 16 wins. Nobody in baseball has more wins than the 2 Chicago teams. Bradley, I think, asking for time now.
Yeah, it looked like he got something in his eye.
Fouled a lot of pitchers off in this game, with Barrios out there now with Abad. started with Naquin's single. Santana walk, Kipnis with an RBI double. 1-2 to Brantley. Now Abad finding out what Barrios did. The Indians are hard to get a swing and a miss on tonight.
We haven't seen that big changeup yet, but I don't know if he'll want to throw it in a situation like this.
If anything, in the handful of at-bats, Brantley seems to be a little late on a fastball.
Well, that last one was a good slider down. Another breaking ball. Another foul ball. Brantley in his 8th season with the Indians, came up in 2009. He's got good genes. His father, Mickey Brantley, played for the Mariners for 4 years. He was an outfielder.
4 two-strike fouls in this at bat to Michael Brantley. And a nice block by Suzuki with Kipnis at third, and now it's 2-2.
Another breaking ball.
Just foul, the 5th two-strike foul, and it nearly hit the bag.
Sandy Alomar Jr. right there. As Ben May, the first base umpire, watches this go foul.
There's a little two-step there, dancing across the foul line.
Sandy Alomar Jr.
Another 2-2 coming to Brantley. Lifted to short left. Well, it's drifting out toward the corner. Now Rosario drops the ball. And Brantley will go to second base. It'll be an error charge to Rosario, who might have been trying to do too much on a what would have been a sacrifice slide.
Yeah, it looked like he tried to get behind that ball to make maybe a throw to home, and maybe lost sight of the ball. Ball looks like it's going to be deep enough for Kipnis to score, but I think that ball didn't go quite as far out there as he thought. And by the time you can see him right there at the last second, ball got by him.
Well, Abad comes in, asked to get 2 batters. He gets 1, but the Indians have a 3-run 5th so far with just 1 out in the inning. Getting started with Berríos on the mound. What'd you see from him tonight?
Well, I saw a good fastball, the four-seam. The two-seamer, he just couldn't control. He did get that one over, but you could see the movement on that two-seamer. And then the four-seamer, I think you saw some explosiveness on that four-seam fastball. That's a very good pitch for him. The curveball, he threw some good ones. I thought at times he was a little bit on the flat side. And then I liked his changeup. A good arm motion on his changeup. You see the whip of that arm. So, yeah, he has 4 really good pitches. He was just erratic tonight, maybe because of all the hype and the excitement. You know, hopefully he'll get another opportunity to show what he can do, because I think he can do something good up here.
His log complete, 5 earned runs in 4 innings plus.
Yeah, Michael Tonkin coming into the ball game, 8 2/3 innings. He's given up 2 runs, 6 walks with 10 strikeouts.
Napoli hit by a pitch in the second, struck out swinging in the third. And Tonkin didn't pay any mind at all to Brantley, who got a running lead, and that's exactly what happened in Washington in the 16th inning, or in the 15th inning on Sunday afternoon. Look at the jump that Brantley gets.
Yeah, no chance for Suzuki. So Brantley steals a base, second stolen base for the Indians here tonight.
Swing and a miss, and it's 0-2. Twins have to bring the infield in now. And Tonkin's got to try to bear down and strike out Napoli, who has been very susceptible to a high fastball. He caught up with one, obviously, in the 9th inning, thrown by Kevin Jepson, but most of the time the Twins have gone up there with a purpose. That's off the plate, 1-2.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they throw him a breaking ball here. Tonkin, you get that fastball in the mid-90s. Yeah. 95.
2-2. Driven to center, down for a hit, another Cleveland run. Twins, it seems, have been out in the field for about 40 minutes.
Well, that fastball down allows Napoli just to hit it sharply in the center. So he picks up an RBI, his 11th of the year on his first hit. Not a lot of movement.
Fox Tracks presented by Jeep. Still only 1 out on the board. There should be 2 with Rosario dropping a fly ball. Now Gomes takes strike 1. Gomes with a pop up to second and a ground ball to short. Fly ball left field. Rosario. The catch, out number 2. Follow Twins Baseball live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Customize at-bat to feature the Twins and stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video, highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Plus, subscribe to at-bat Premium to get the MLB.TV game of the day, radio broadcasts, in-game highlights, enhanced game day features, and more. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Ramirez reached in a fielder's choice and singled, out trying to stretch it into a double in the 4th. Popped up near the Cleveland dugout. Sano, and he reached into the Cleveland dugout. The ball landed elsewhere.
Rajay Davis right there. I think he realized he couldn't catch it, so he hits Davis.
Twins got the first 3 runs, but the next 6 have gone to Cleveland, and now Tonkin will try to wrap up business here in the top of the 5th inning. Fly left center field. And Ramirez, or excuse me, Rosario with the catch. A 4 spot for the Indians in the 5th inning. Fans of the game trying to stay warm, bundled up with blankets on a very cool night. We started more than a half-hour late because of some rain, but they are our Pepsi fans of the game for their fortitude, determination, love of baseball.
That's right.
10 in a row set down by Josh Tomlin, and he'll face Kurt Suzuki to start the Twins' 5th. 4 of the first 6 batters for the Twins in the game reached base against Tomlin, and none have reached since.
Yeah, again, he threw 21 pitches in the first inning, only 23 to get 9 outs. Innings 2 through 4.
And he gets ahead of Suzuki, 0-2. Talked about Berríos and how he really didn't have much of an opportunity to sit down and rest in the dugout because Tomlin has been so quick in retiring Twins batters. Now the other side of the coin. The ball laced to center field, and on an 0-2 pitch, Suzuki gets a base hit. Tomlin has had to sit in that dugout. Now it's not what you might think. The dugouts are heated, and it might be the warmest spot in Target Field, but he had to sit down for a long time.
Well, you know what you can do now because of the way the ballparks are built. He can sit in the dugout, but he can also go back there where the batting cages are and throw a little bit.
Had to sit through 2 pitching changes, and the top of this inning was a mess for the Twins. Here's Rosario, who muffed a fly ball in the middle of that inning. And he takes strike 1. Tomlin throwing strikes. Very much appreciated, I'm sure, by his fielders on a cold night.
Yeah, 11 of 18 first pitch strikes. Where's Kurt Suzuki going?
Well, while it might seem a pointless throw to first, that's better than ignoring the runner and just letting him get a walking lead and stealing a base.
Good point.
Tapper to second. Backhanded flip, and they'll get 1 but not 2. That was about a 35-foot backhanded flip from Kipnis.
Yeah, Rosario gets down that line very quickly. Don't even know if he spun and threw it to Lindor, if they would have been able to get Rosario. But the out is recorded at second base.
Here is Santana. Started the game for the Twins with a double. That ball gets away from Napoli. And Rosario will round second and try for third. The throw from Kipnis. Safe. It's the second pickoff throw to first that has gotten past Napoli. This one, I think, too, the fault of the pitcher, Tomlin.
Yeah, he did it in the first inning with Arcia at first base. And Tomlin again overshooting Napoli, going into the runner. And that's a little short hop that Napoli should have caught that one.
Well, might give the error to the first baseman there, and that is the case. First pickoff throw back in the first inning. Tomlin was charged with the error.
Good slide by Rosario right there. You can see him use the outfield side of the third base bag.
Corner infielders up, and the pitch fouled away, 1 strike. The Indians trying to give the Twins a run back here in the bottom of the 5th, and Santana's job is to make sure that Rosario scores. Just inside, 1-1. Early on, it looked like Tomlin was on the ropes. A couple of doubles, 3 runs. And a base hit to right. Santana with 3 hits last night and 2 already tonight, and it's 6-4.
Well, that pitch looked like it was away, and he just kind of flicked it into short right field. And picks up an RBI, his first of the year. Santana spent time on a disabled list. But this pitch is away. Little breaking ball. Nice piece of hitting by Santana, scoring Rosario. That's a 6-4 ball game.
Dozier to the plate representing the tying run. He had to come back to the mound, tried to bunt his way aboard, popped it up. 0 for 2. Up high, ball 1. Off to first. Santana dives back. Well, the pitchers have had problems with pickoff throws to first, so Gomes thought he'd throw over there. Activity in the Cleveland bullpen. Tomlin's pitch count is hardly a factor, but Dozier represents the tying run suddenly here with 1 out. Two and 1. Zach McAllister gave up the home run to Arcia 2 nights ago. Warming up earlier in the game tonight. Up high, 3-1. Mauer on deck.
Tomlin has 1 walk in the ball game, 1 strikeout.
3-1 to Dozier. Ball over. Santana with some speed, Twins down a couple of runs. Dozier very strikeout prone. See if the Twins send Santana here with one down. Santana's been running the bases very aggressively. And he goes. And the pitch fouled back. And he has been the center of a lot of challenges in recent games. Pickoffs to first, slides to second, slides to third. Three and two to Dozier.
One thing Tomlin is, he's very quick home. Making his 83rd major league start. There's only been 6 successful steals off of him in 14 tries in his career.
A high fly to left field.
Yes.
It is back and caught at the wall. Dozier comes up a little short and Santana retreats to first.
Boy, I thought he got that. Maybe a little off the end of the bat.
Wind blowing in from left, and it's a cold, cold night. I promise you, under warmer conditions, that ball would have been about 8-10 rows back.
Let's take a look right here. Boy, Brantley going back and right against the fence makes the catch. That surprised me. I thought it was out.
I think Brian did too. Now Mauer. And Santana may try to go on a straight steal here. As difficult as it is to steal on Tomlin, now the Twins might want to get him in scoring position early in the at bat, not on the first pitch, and Mauer takes low. With a walk and a run scored. His first time up. And strike on the outside corner, 1-1.
Well, again, Joe came into the ball game good numbers against Tomlin. 7 hits and 16 at bats. Tomlin walked him in the first, and then Joe hit a ground ball out in the third. Going fastball in. He wanted up and in.
Mauer lifts it to right field. Bird is there for the catch. The Twins get one back on a pair of singles and an error. It's 6-4. inning. You can join the Heart of 29, a year-long campaign to help support the American Heart Association. Purchase a special Carews Corner ticket package Fridays in April and May and receive a Rod Carew Twins jersey. Fans can also join or pledge Rod's team at the Twin Cities Heart Walk. For more details, visit foxsportsnorth.com and click on upcoming events on the Hot Topics bar. To the 6th inning, and Michael Tonkin out there. First pitch. Marlon Byrd takes strike one. Byrd 0 for 2 against Jose Barrios. A fly to center and a strikeout. Here's a pop-up short right field. Arcia coming in, making the catch, one away.
How do you know that's Arcia?
That's true.
Oh, 31. Okay.
Seems like a good idea. If you were out there playing, having that was it a balaclava type thing where you can just look out, protect the rest of your face. I've got one of those for deer hunting. I wouldn't use it in April. Don't suppose. Outside, ball one.
Whatever it takes to stay warm.
Naquin has scored twice. Leadoff walk and a run scored in the 3rd, a leadoff single and a run scored in the 5th. Swing and a miss, 1-1.
Yeah, Barrios had 2 walks and both of them scored. It's one thing I'm sure he'll look at. You know, in minor leagues, excellent control, but not here tonight, not in his major league debut.
And a chopper foul, 1-2.
Indians very high on Naquin, 25 years old. Indians #1 pick in 2012. Texas A&M, College Station, Texas.
Missed the inside corner with a fastball.
Pretty good pitch there. Next pitch down and away.
And now 2-2. Foul to the screen. Twins winning a couple of walk-off ball games consecutively against the Indians. There's a day off tomorrow. And then the Tigers come to town for 3. They knocked out Sonny Gray early tonight, beat the A's 9-4 at Comerica Park. Verlander picked up the win. That means, of course, the Twins won't have to face him. Another foul to the screen.
Naquin making Tonkin throw some pitches here. This will be pitch number 9 to him.
Full count. And another foul ball.
Naquin making the club out of spring training. 4 minor league seasons for the Indians. A .287 minor league hitter. Brings some speed to the Indians.
And live. All 3 Twins pitchers have run into this tonight. The Indians getting a piece of just about everything Barrios threw. Abad and now Tonkin.
It'll never surpass the at-bat that A.J. Przinsky had in Tampa.
There's finally strike 3 for out number 2.
What was it, a 17 pitch?
Something like that. And hey, AJ tonight got his 2000th big league hit. Congratulations to him.
Yes. Finally, he swings through a fastball. And Tonkin picks up his first strikeout.
2 down, and now Carlos Santana, who has walked, singled twice, scored twice. This the type of role that the Twins imagined for Tonkin coming out of spring training. He wasn't quite ready for it. Usually an inning or an inning plus at a time, but this is what I think the first time really where he's been given a chance in the middle innings with the expectation that he'll pitch through the 7th inning.
Well, a lot of seasons in the minor leagues. This is his 9th season with the Twins. Signed with them back in 2008. He's out of options. They're giving him the opportunity to have this role right here.
Big pop-up coming back. Not too far from my daughter, but she seemed not the least bit interested in anything to do with that foul ball.
Was she on her phone?
No, she wasn't. Huddled under blankets. She's quite happy that the ball didn't come any closer out of the backstop. 3-2. What we've seen here tonight is why Terry Francona moved, or has occasionally, Santana to the leadoff spot. He's a high on base guy, and he tattoos one to right center field. And Arcia plays the carom. Santana's reached all 4 times, and he's in with a double.
Tell you what, Arcia played that perfectly. Santana gets his 3rd hit of the ball game on his 6th double. Ball hit high off the wall here in right field. Extension by Santana. And watch Arcia. He knows he can't get it, so now hopefully it'll ricochet off the wall, which it does. But it's a double, a 2-out double.
And now Jason Kipnis, who doubled in a run, scored his last time up. Santana off to a slow start this year, but he's a guy that typically walks over 100 times. Swing and a miss, and it's 0-2.
Well, Santana over his career, not much of a hitter as far as average rise. 245 in his career, but he can hit that home run. He can drive in runs. 85 last year, hit 19 home runs.
Two strikes to Kipnis, who has struck out twice tonight. 1-2.
Kipnis was the last batter that Jose Barrios faced.
Got him on the inside corner. A scoreless 6 for Michael Tonkin, and we go to the bottom of the inning. Miguel Sano featured in the Twins lineup with the Twins down a couple of runs.
Bottom of the 6th inning for the Twins. Last night he hit the single in the bottom of the 9th to win it for Minnesota. He told me today it was the first walk-off hit of his entire life. He said the closest he had ever come was 2010, his first year in the Dominican. He hit a single in the bottom of the 9th, but the runner was tagged out at home. He said Little League, growing up, he could never remember a walk-off hit. He said it was a very special moment for him last night. He was speaking in English, then he had to use his translator, Carlos Font, to come up with the word to describe it. Dick and Bert, he said it was glorious for him to hit the walk-off last night.
You know, I would imagine those things tend to just kind of go in streaks. Arcia, you know, really had 3. A high fly to right field, and coming in is Bird. The wind is going to push it even closer to the infield, 1 down. Arcia got the big 8th inning home run and a couple of walk-offs. And then Sano last night. This is the last time the Twins had walk-off wins in back-to-back games. I think last year, wasn't it?
Jock Jones, wasn't it? In 2005.
Okay.
Against the Orioles. It's on the Twins notes, Dick.
Okay.
Yeah, then the next day, Jock Jones did it again, ending the game with a home run.
Here's a drive to center. Park has sent it deep off the batter's eye for a home run. His 5th of the year. And that, like the other 4, clearing the wall by 50 feet. And it's 6-5.
Well, I think we can see why he hit so many home runs in South Korea. Great timing right there. Great strength. And off the batter's eye. Wow.
So now it's 6-5, and the Indians will go to their bullpen. The Twins trying to come back as the Indians did from an early 3-run deficit. They have trimmed it back to 1 run.
Parks at 444 feet.
Okay, only cleared the wall by 40 feet. Kyle Crockett was called up with Cody Anderson being sent down, and the Indians needed some bullpen help, and they went down and got another left-hander.
Yeah, Crockett, he's in his 3rd season with the Indians, just being recalled or called up. Last year, 29 relief appearances. Excuse me, 31 relief appearances, no record, an ERA at 4.08 last year.
Arcia the batter. An RBI single his first time up, and a tapper to second his 2nd time up. Down and away, ball 1.
Crockett, not an overpowering fastball, sweeping slider, and a changeup.
Poked foul. 1-1. We know about the Twins bullpen being overworked as of late. So too the Indians, who lost Carlos Carrasco in the early innings in Detroit on Sunday. The outside corner. That's why I really think what Ricky Nolasco did. Now overall the numbers last night weren't great. 4 runs in 7 1/3 innings, but he got an out in the 8th inning on a night when the Twins desperately needed that. 1-2 to Arcia.
There's that sweeping breaking ball. You know, in today's game, they say a quality start is 6 innings, 3 earned runs or less, but I don't think they sometimes take into account what Nolasco did. To me, that's a quality start, what he did last night, because of the situation. He's 4 very good starts.
2-2 to Arcia.
9 strikeouts, no walks.
And Arcia strikes out. Out number 2. That'll bring up Nunez.
Terry Francona coming out, so Crockett asked just to get 1 out. Merry-go-round starts with Terry Francona.
McAllister will be brought in to get the last out of the 6th inning in a 1-run game.
What is Noonie?
Noonie. Goofball loves him some Latin music.
Kind of a funny guy. Funniest laugh on the team, that's for sure.
Noonie's a pro. He's played in New York. He's played on the big stages. He's played in the playoffs.
Guy that's been around a little bit. He knows what he needs to do.
He goes up there. He's gonna give you a professional at bat, and he's just kind of the ultimate team pro.
He'll have a tough assignment here tonight because Zach McAllister's coming into the ball game. McAllister, the loser, he gave up the Arcia home run 2 nights ago, but that was just the 3rd hit he's allowed all year long.
Yeah, you can see 7 1/3 innings, 6 strikeouts, a couple walks. McAllister in his 6th season with the Cleveland Indians, originally signed by the Yankees, as Nunez was.
Down and away, ball 1. We mentioned it 2 nights ago. The Indian bullpen, which is really good the last couple of years, has had some early issues. Allen, the closer, with an ERA of over 7. (2-0). Shaw, one of the reliable setup guys, 9 games, an ERA of over 12.
McAllister, a big man, 6'6", about 240.
2-0 to Nunez. Popped up and 2-1 into the seats.
Nunez hitting at .388, 19 hits and 49 at bats, a couple doubles, a triple. Looking for his first hit here tonight.
Chopper going to be a tough play. Ramirez charges and juggles it, and Nunez gets an infield hit.
And there's his first hit tonight.
A dribbler in front of the third baseman Ramirez, and Nunez is aboard.
Yeah, Ramirez plays back. He does get it on a nice hop, but you can see him juggle the ball a little bit. Never got a really good grip, but I don't think even if he had thrown to first, Nunez probably would have beat it out.
And now Suzuki in what might be a running situation for Nunez. Suzuki at the plate, singled his last time up, took an 0-2 pitch and lined it into center field. Got a pitch up and fouled it back.
Yeah, Suzuki a couple of hits in last night's ball game. Picked up a single in the 5th inning.
Nunez with 4 steals in 6 tries. I think he's going to go, and I think he should just take his helmet off and lie it in the dirt now so it doesn't fall off when he runs to second base.
We know that Gomes has a great arm behind the plate. How quick can McAllister get him the ball?
There he goes. And Nunez steals second. Pitch was low. Those are always a little tougher for catchers to handle, and Nunez swipes a bag.
And his 5th stolen base of the year. So he gets into scoring position with 2 outs. Got a good jump right there. First movement. And even though the throw was high, still Gomes with a very good throw.
Carried the helmet with him almost all the way to second base. Hit to the outfield should tie the game. One and one the count to Suzuki. To right field. Bird chasing it to the corner, and he makes the catch. Pretty well hit ball for the 3rd out. A home run for Park, and the Twins are within 1. Story of the game with a lot of runs scored.
Yeah, Jose Barrios was the story of the game. He has 3-0 lead, but then in the 5th inning, RBI double by Kipnis. That scored a couple runs. And then Napoli getting a base hit off of, scored a run. And all of a sudden they put a 4 on the board. But the Twins come fighting back. Santana with an RBI single in the 5th inning. And then Byung-ho Park with his 5th home run makes it a 6-5 ball game in favor of the Indians.
Casey Fiend comes in. He'll pitch to the 3, 4, and 5 batters for the Indians. Michael Tonkin, the Twins off the field in the 5th, did okay in the 6th. But now it's Casey Fiend.
Casey Fiend pitched in last night's ballgame, faced 2 batters, Carlos Santana and Jason Kipnis, and struck them both out in the 8th inning. Through 8 pitches, 7 for strikes, making his 11th appearance. Feels like we should be like in the 8th or 9th inning. It's only the 7th inning.
I know that. Started late to begin with. Indians travel to Philadelphia. They'll have an off day in Philly tomorrow. Strike 1 says Laz Diaz. Lindor with 3 runs batted in, came into the game with 6 RBIs. 1 strike to Lindor, then Brantley and Napoli. Missed inside, 1-1. It's concerned whether we would even be able to play tonight. There were contingency plans discussed. Everybody's happy to be able to get the game in. The Indians have already lost a couple of games this year. The Twins have played 3 more games than Cleveland. And now fouled away, 1-2.
A lot of times I've seen Casey Fiend come in and he'll throw that little cut fastball, but last night, boy, he was just throwing that 4-seam fastball right past Santana and Kipnis. And he hit that outer half of the plate over and over and over.
One and 2 to Lindor. 2-2. Tonight the Twins are wrapping up a stretch of 15 games in 15 days, and so far they're 7-7 during that stretch. And Fiend gets another strikeout.
And another 4-seam fastball. Casey just rearing back, and look at the glove of Suzuki right there. Good pitch.
Foxtrot's presented by Carrier. Sometimes scouts, pitching coaches will say so-and-so fell in love with the cutter, almost like it's leprosy or something, a disease you get when you're out there pitching. And what we might be seeing is Casey relying more on the 4-seamer and not throwing the cutter as much. Certainly been the case last night and tonight.
Well, I've seen him, a lefty, if you want to throw him inside like a Brantley, you have to almost throw that cutter in there. But working away, you see that good 4-seamer. Suzuki sitting outside again. And there's a good pitch right there, 92. Fifth season with the Twins for Casey Fiend, 32 years old now. Came up with the Tigers in 2009. There's a cutter a little bit right there. Again, you go in and lefties, you like to kind of get that ball in there. That's what that cutter does. Just got underneath it just a bit. Not a bad pitch.
And Brantley gets his first hit of the season. Looping a single to left field.
Picked up his first RBI in the 5th inning. Now he gets his first hit of the year.
We'll bring up Napoli.
For the Indians, their 9th hit here tonight. Twins have 7.
outside, ball 1.
Outfield playing pretty straight up for Napoli, as the infield is.
Brantley stole third on Tonkin in the 5th inning.
He stole 15 bases last year, was caught only once. Good base runner.
A mile in the air.
Wow.
Heads up.
And it hits the roof. And the wind blowing in from left field. We've seen it impact fly balls. And in this case, a pop-up. That looked like that would be in play. A play perhaps for Suzuki or Bauer, but the wind kept pushing it into the seats.
Well, remember when Brantley was up the last time, he hit that ball to Rosario, and I think, you know, Rosario tried to get behind it, and the ball just kept drifting in more than he anticipated.
Dozier with a drive that on any other night probably would have left the ballpark, but it was caught on the warning track.
Right.
The steal of third base by Brantley. Just the 7th stolen base allowed by the Twins. They've stolen 13. On the ground, Nunez to Dozier. To Mauer, a double play. Nunez took it right in the sternum, I think.
It brought him to his knees.
He knocked it down, picked it up, started a double play, and the Twins trail by a run going to the bottom of the 7th. Tonight about Jose Barrios, and he got into the 5th inning but not through it.
Yeah, he had a 3-2 lead going into the 5th inning, and it just didn't work out for him. He ended up working 4+ innings, 6 hits allowed, 5 runs all earned, a couple walks with 5 strikeouts. You can see 93 pitches, too many pitches in a short amount of time.
Here's Rosario. First pitch jammed and dribbled off the glove of McAllister, and Rosario will get an infield hit. Another comebacker to the mound, and McAllister didn't field it cleanly, and Rosario's aboard.
Yeah, that slowed the ball down, allowed Rosario and his speed to get an infield base hit. Your first reaction as a pitcher get over there, you can see it ricochet off his glove. Kipnis had no chance. Rosario hustling down that
Rosario can steal a base. Santana continues to hit. 2 more hits tonight, a double and a single. Bunted in the air, caught by McAllister, who falls down. Otherwise, it could have been a double play. Second popped up bunt for the Twins. Dozier in the 3rd inning popped up a bunt and it was caught. 1 down.
Let's take a look at McAllister right here. Catch the ball. Ouch. I think his teammates will have fun with him.
Dozier, the batter, comebacker to the mound, a 1-hopper in the 1st. Then he bunted foul in the air, and Gomes caught it in the 3rd inning. Then he drove one to left field, and sure looked when it left home plate like it was going to be gone. But it died in the wind and the cold. Ball 1. Twins had a 3-0 lead, and then a few innings later, the Indians had a 3-run lead of their own. Twins got one back in the 5th, one back in the 6th, trying to get at least one here in the 7th. And a strike.
Took something off that. There was a fastball at 93. McAllister did some starting for the Indians when he first joined them back in 2011.
Off the plate. Now the hits against McAllister tonight have been infield hits. Suzuki with the best hit ball against McAllister tonight, his inning-ending liner to right. But Arcia had tattooed one. A walk-off home run here 2 nights ago. There goes Rosario, and the pitch popped up to center. Naquin with the catch, 2 away. It'll bring up Mauer. The Budweiser Roof Deck is the ultimate Twins outdoor experience. The roof deck is available for your group of 250 guests on both Independence and Labor Day weekends. Your clients and staff will love the sweeping views, amenities, large fire, everything you need for mixing game time with social time. Go to twinsbaseball.com/groups. Learn more about how your group can experience the Budweiser Roof Deck. Mauer 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. Down and in, ball 1. Mauer's on base percentage so high it might deter the Twins from trying to steal Rosario here, because there's a decent chance with all the walks he's getting that Rosario will be advanced there without trying to steal second base. Two and 0. Sano on deck. There's a strike, 2 and 1. He's looking for at least a double here to get Rosario in from first base. Three and 1 with Sano on deck.
They missed with a breaking ball there. That's
You wonder why he takes a lot of pitches. Head in the count, he's nearly a 400 hitter. Foul back now, 3-2.
Good swing right there.
So Rosario will take off with a full count, 2 down.
Bauer has 1 home run this year. That came in Baltimore back on April 7th.
Full count to Mauer. Ball 4. Rosario will be advanced to second base. He's the tying run, and now Sano comes to the plate. Sano with an RBI double to center and a run scored in the first. Ground ball to third and a fly to right. Scored 5 runs. They've only left 3 men on. Cash in here with a 2-out hit from Sano.
That's the only second walk that the Twins have taken. Both of them to Mauer.
Pitch is up, ball 1.
Sano 1 for 4 lifetime against McAllister, and that 1 was a home run.
Strike on the outside corner. And 1 to Sano. That rolls away from Gomes, but Rosario couldn't advance.
That ball really didn't get that far away from Gomes. Again, outstanding arm, does a good job of utilizing the chest protector to deaden the ball.
Pop foul and out of play, 2-2. Started late. It's had very little pacing or rhythm to it. Two to Miguel Sano. Three and 2 with Park on deck.
The runners will have the advantage of taking off here. With that 2-2 pitch again, it's very important. Now it's 3-2.
Rosario from second, Mauer from first. 3-2 to Sano. Ball 4. McAllister has faced 7 men and only retired 3 of them. 1 of them on a bunt attempt.
Yeah, back-to-back walks. We do a little pitch by pitch. McAllister to Sano. The high almost like a cutter. And then the fastball to even the count, 1-1. And he missed with a breaking ball. Gomes does a good job of knocking it down. Fastball away that Sano fouled off. And he missed with 2 straight fastballs. Here's another one.
Hart, in his last at bat, got a breaking ball and clubbed it off the batter's eye in center field.
Mickey Callaway, the pitching coach for Terry Francona, out to talk to his big right-hander.
Taken low, ball 1. 4 years in a row in Korea, he drove in over 100 runs. A big RBI spot here. He's hit 5 home runs. They've all come with the bases empty. And has a total of 6 runs batted in.
Oh, good swing there.
95-mile-per-hour fastball. He appeared to be right on it, timing wise. One and one. Fouled back at 94. And fouled straight back.
Again, first time around the block for Park to face a lot of these pitchers here in the United States.
One and 2. Up high.
4 straight fastballs.
Four of the 5 home runs have come on off-speed pitches. One fastball he drove into the seats in right field. High fastball got him. The Twins leave the bases full, coming up empty in the 7th.
Everybody, I'm Jeff Grayson with your Mall of America's Studio Sports Update. On this date in 1994, Scott Erickson became the 3rd Twins pitcher to throw a no-hitter. He was the first to do it in 27 years and the first to throw a no-no at the Metrodome. The Twins went on to beat the Milwaukee Brewers 6-0.
That was the first no-hitter I actually saw in person.
Is that right?
Yeah. that was my excited voice in the background. And a real quick story as Fiend starts his second inning of work, ball one. That was an MSC telecast a long time ago. Channel 4 rebroadcast it a week and a half later, but they didn't put a crawl up saying it was a rebroadcast. And a lot of people in the opening day of fishing season on a Saturday afternoon wasted some precious time on the lake thinking it was Ericsson's second no-hitter. Bauer catches a foul pop, 1 down.
All right, let me ask you, were you in any of those places that you might have said, I'll bet you he pitches a no-hitter?
You know, I was tempted, but I felt bad for these guys who were in off the lake and should be out trying to catch walleyes. And 1 down quickly here in the 8th inning, and that'll bring up Ramirez.
Could have made some good money that afternoon.
Ramirez 1 for 3. I guess now that I think about it, that was the first of 4 no-hitters that it's been my pleasure to bring Twins television. 2 for the Twins and 2 against the Twins, including David Wells' perfect game.
Right.
Eric Milton's was thrown on a Saturday morning in one of the few games back then we didn't televise.
That was the 11 o'clock game,
yeah,
I believe. Gophers were playing in the afternoon.
Strike call. 2-1. Trevor May getting loose. It's a base hit to left over the head of Nunez. With a 1-out single, Ramirez has his second hit.
This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority of the Minnesota Twins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Minnesota Twins, LLC.
Marlon Byrd is 0 for 3. He got off the field in the 7th inning. Like to get another ground ball double play. There's Brian Shaw. Looks like he'll get the bottom of the 8th inning.
Ramirez at first base. He has 1 stolen base in his only attempt. Stole 10 bases last year. Was caught 4 times.
Twins viewers probably have noticed there's just been more attention paid runners. There have been a couple of obvious cases where pitchers haven't paid any attention to runners and the Twins have paid the price, but by and large there's been much more focus on the base runners.
I was going to say, Ramirez looks from here, he's got a pretty good lead. You look over your left shoulder and you don't see him, that's a good lead.
Inching even further away from the bag. There's a tapper in front of Sano. Bare hands. Oh, what a play by Miguel Sano. My goodness. He buggy whipped that throw across the diamond and got there in a blink of an eye.
I didn't think there was any chance of getting anybody. You know, Bird, 38 years old, still hustling out of that box, but Sano bare hands it and then throws a P over to Mauer. Our camera couldn't even catch up to that ball. Wow.
And
great play.
We've seen him make that play a couple of times, and really impressive given the fact that he didn't take any time at all at third base in spring training. The Twins spent every moment with him in the field, in the outfield, in right field. And so to have him make plays like that with not a whole lot of repetition in preparation for playing third base this year. My goodness. 1 strike to Naquin. On the play, Ramirez did advance to second.
Well, I think the question was asked, I know in our pregame, to Paul Molitor about that Sano playing third base, and he said, you know, when he found out he was playing third again, he had a big smile on his face and said, I like playing over there. It's tough to learn a new position.
Yeah, 2 strikes. Whoa! Suzuki got a glove on it, but he couldn't catch it. And it's 1-2.
Yeah, just a bit high. Ramirez on a wild pitch will go to third base. Casey Fiend, his first wild pitch of the year, and that was a wild one.
Struck out against Tonkin in the 6th. Ooh. He had to dart to his right to make that catch.
Previous one to his left, this one to his right. Cleaning his spikes.
Big pitch here. The Twins down a run, trying to strand a runner at third in the 8th.
Suzuki sitting away. Got him.
Fiend strikes out Naquin. Got some help from his third baseman, and still a 1-run deficit.
Target Field, and coming up after the game, we'll bring you Twins Live presented by CenturyLink. Well, we will look at the debut of Jose Berrios, the much anticipated debut of a very high pitching prospect for the Twins. Berrios went 4 innings tonight, gave up 6 hits, 5 runs, 5 strikeouts. We'll break down his entire evening. Plus, we'll look at the leadoff hitters for each team: Carlos Santana, Danny Santana, and the effect that they had in this game tonight. We'll also hear from the manager, Paul Molitor. And Dick and Bert, let's hope we're talking about our 3rd walk-off win in a row.
Well, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're setting up the game for that.
Arcia will start the 8th inning facing Brian Shaw.
Shaw worked here on Monday night, a 1-2-3 8th inning.
Saw the numbers: 7 1/3 innings, 11 hits, 4 walks, 3 home runs. And 2 of them down and away on the black.
Yeah, he came in here 8th inning, had a couple strikeouts. Struck out Sano and Park. The 3 batters he faced.
Face Arcia, Nunez, and Suzuki here. Checked his swing. And a successful check. 1-2. Fouled away. Arcia with a sharp single to right, driving in a run back in the 1st inning. Since then, a ground ball and a strikeout. Yikes. I got a little piece of everybody. Arcia got out of the way. It looked like it got Gomes up around the shoulder, and then it went over to Nunez.
Yeah, a lot of sliders so far by Shaw. That one in dirt. Shaw in his 4th season with the Indians. Came up with the Diamondbacks in 2011. He's been a workhorse for the Indians the last 2 years out of the bullpen.
And now 3-2. Twins filled the bases with just 1 hit in the 7th. They left the bases full, taking 2 walks. Now Arcia, not the easiest guy in the world to walk, threatening to take one leading off the 8th. Swung on and missed. And Arcia strikes out for the 2nd time tonight. Fox Sports Supports is proud to team up with Surfrider Foundation in celebration of this month's Every Day is Earth Day initiative. By making simple changes in our daily lives, we can make a big impact on our environment. Go to foxsportsupports.com and learn more about what you can do to be a part of the solution. 1 down, and now here's Nunez. Infield hit his last time up. Strike on the outside corner.
Shaw right-handed and throws a little bit across his body. Working off the 3rd base side of the pitching rubber.
One and one.
2 years ago, Shaw appeared in 80 ball games out of that bullpen for the Indians. That was the American League. Led the American League in that department, and then last year 74 relief appearances.
Two and one. If you're a reliever for a Terry Francona team, you get used a lot.
Yes, you do.
2-1 to Nunez. Chopped foul. 93 miles per hour, down and away, and it's 2-2.
It's that cutter he throws at 93.
Shaw wants a new set of signs.
Took a fastball away.
And Nunez strikes out. 2
Up
down.
the ladder right there with Nunez. Picks up the 2nd straight strikeout.
As much as Shaw struggled giving up a lot of hits, he now has 13 strikeouts in 8 innings.
That fastball is like a little cutter. Goes up hard.
And now Suzuki. Suzuki with 1 hit, 3 at bats. Line drive single to center, and then he hit a liner to right, but in the general direction of Marlon Byrd. Off the plate, ball 1. Hope foul over the Twins dugout. 1-1.
He'll cut her away.
Again. The back-to-back walk-off wins have improved the Twins' record in 1-run games to 4-5. They're 1-4 in 2-run decisions. Trying to come back late against the Indians.
This the breaking ball.
Suzuki with a soft liner to the shortstop, and Shaw has a 1-2-3 8th inning. Trevor May will pitch to the Indians in the 9th inning. The Twins had a 3-run lead, and then later the Indians had a 3-run lead. We're down to a 1-run deficit now as we go to the 9th.
11th appearance for Trevor May. 11 1/3 innings pitched so far. 18 strikeouts with 6 walks. He worked here on Monday night, an inning and a third. Gave up just 1 hit, couple strikeouts in the Twins' 4-3 win.
It'll be Carlos Santana leading off the 9th inning. They haven't gotten Santana out. He's got 3 hits and a walk. Strike 1, Trevor May. Outside, 1-1.
So hard curveball right there by May. Trevor, 26 years old. This is his 3rd season with the Twins.
And hard to right. Arcia is there for the catch. Carlos Santana swinging the bat really well in this series, particularly tonight. 1 down. That'll bring up Jason Kipnis. 3 strikeouts and a double for Kipnis tonight.
Yeah, he got a breaking ball from Barrios, excuse me, but that was in the 5th inning. And that was the last batter that Jose Barrios faced.
Or Barrios.
I'm going to mess up that name.
You know, I've noticed that as the night has worn on, you've gotten colder and colder and colder. Now, tomorrow, you'll be in Fort Myers, Florida, and you can hit that switch next to your fireplace and turn on the gas fireplace.
I keep looking over to their booth next to us, and their windows are closed.
Well, I have an issue with that, but
I know, so do I.
Okay.
But there just looks warmer right now.
2 strikes. And Kipnis strikes out. 2 down.
Kipnis striking out for the 4th time.
See, we got our windows open, and over there.
Cold.
Well, yeah, Matt Underwood's over there. Doesn't even have his sport coat on. 2 down, and now Lindor the bat.
You see where that pitch was, but Kipnis swinging at that high fastball. So May picks up another strikeout.
Tapper to short. And booted by NUNEZ. And Lindor alertly going to second base. Lindor gets into scoring position on the 3rd Twins error of the night. Excuse me, 2nd Twins error of the night.
Yeah, for NUNEZ, that's his 1st error of the year.
And Brantley will have a chance to drive in an awfully big insurance run. Brantley dumped a single to left his last time up. His 1st hit since being activated from the disabled list. Cody Allen, the Cleveland closer, is warmed up. Brantley won't get a chance to swing the bat. The Twins will take their chances with Napoli instead.
First intentional walk for May.
So an intentional walk, filling first base, and now Napoli coming up. An RBI single in 3 trips. He's also been hit by a pitch. And Napoli has done a lot of swinging and missing against Trevor May, who's got that high fastball, and that seems to be where the Twins have tried to get him out, with the exception of Jepson last night. They've been successful up there.
Well, actually, the fastball, to Jepson was up.
Half swing, strike 1. Lays off 1-1. Number 9 line hitter Rosario, then Santana and Dozier. Bauer would hit third, or fourth rather, in the inning.
Cody Allen, their closer, up.
Fouled away. 1-2. Upstairs, and Napoli checks the swing. He looks for the ball up there and swung through a lot of them. Clicked on one against Jepson last night. 2-2 from May to Napoli. Hoping for a bounce back year, and you'll hear about hitters who go through conditioning, weightlifting, whatever. In Napoli's case, he had surgery for sleep apnea, and it's made all the difference, he says, in how he feels, sleeping better at night. 2-2. Breaking ball missing. It's 3-2 with Gomes on deck.
Got some speed on the base pass now.
And that speed will get early starts from second and first.
But you throw 2-2, you should be able to throw 3-2. With a fastball in.
Another 3-2 coming to Napoli. Another foul ball. How many foul balls have the Indians had here tonight?
Well, the paid attendance 17,746. So don't know if everybody got one or not.
Three and two again to Napoli. Four two-strike fouls for Napoli in this at bat alone.
And Napoli strikes out a lot. He's leading the Indians in strikeouts, but with the strikeouts also come the power. 208 career home runs.
Got him looking, and Napoli jumps out of the batter's box. A scoreless top of the ninth. The Twins need to get at least one in the bottom of the ninth. and a finish. Endings are imposed and inflicted. Struck him out. Got him. Breaking ball got him. Finishes are earned and celebrated. A drive to right field. Going back and gone.
How about that?
It's the last word, the closing act, the final step, the whole point. We don't remember the start. We never forget the finish. Lace to center field. Dozier around third, and the Twins walk off the Indians again. Can they do it 3 nights in a row? If they're going to do it, they're going to do it through a bit of a rain that has developed here at Target Field. Last time the Twins had 3 straight walk-off wins, 1987. The magic number diminishing dramatically in September.
Yeah, it was a pretty good year in 1987.
Yeah. Look who got the middle one, Billy Beam, who's now running the show for the Oakland A's. It'll be Rosario, Santana, Dozier, and the Twins hope to put a lot of people on the bases, maybe get a few more at the plate, and get a couple.
Well, Cody Allen, he ended up getting a loss in last night's ball game, had a tough outing, but he is the closer for the Indians.
And Rosario takes low, ball 1. Rosario with a single his last time up. Up and away, 2-0.
Allen faced 4 batters yesterday in the 9th inning. Santana got the base hit and then got caught stealing. Dozier's double, then the intentional walk to Joe Mauer set up Sano's game-winning single.
Walks have been the biggest issue, with 5 of them in 8 2/3 innings. And a strike, 2-1.
Allen with a good fastball, hard curveball, and a changeup.
Tip 2-2. Have had 3 walk-offs already this year, 2 by Arcia and the 1 last night by Sano. Strike 3. And Rosario's gone on strikes.
Stayed with the fastball basically, and fastball away, and Rosario swings through it.
He's had just 1 strikeout with 2 gone in the 7th, but now 4 of the last 5 batters have struck out. Here is Santana, 2 hits so far. 6 for 12 since coming off the disabled list. On the outside corner, strike 1.
Hard curveball right there. Santana started the 9th inning last night with a base hit off of Allen.
And on the grass at third, Jose Ramirez. One and one. Popped up, foul and out of play. 1-2. He's trying to get somebody on base, some speed on the bases. Like Santana's speed would be nice. Dozier and hopefully Bauer to follow. And a base hit up the middle. Santana's aboard. Chopped a single just out of the reach of Allen.
Well, the speed is at first now. A breaking ball that stayed up. And Santana picking up his 3rd hit. He's at first with 1 out. Dozier doubled off of Allen in last night's 9th inning.
Over to the gap in right center field tonight. 0 for 4. He does have a warning track fly ball to left. Up and in, ball 1. And a closer who walks a lot of people, as Allen has this year, is just asking for trouble. Fell behind Rosario, but came back to strike him out. Breaking ball on the called strike.
There's a fine mist of rain that's starting to come down.
Adding to the pleasantness on the field, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Santana goes, and he is safe at second base. Gomes has got a tremendously quick release.
Remember last night's ball game, Santana stole, and then Kipnis real quickly looked at Terry Francona, and they wanted a replay on it, and Santana was called out. This time Kipnis did not look into their dugout.
Indians have nothing to lose. They'll take a look at it. Look how quick that release is. Kind of the same. I don't know that he even tagged him until he got the foot. So the Indians really have nothing to.
Hey, missed him.
Yep. So there will be no challenge here. 2-1 to Dozier with the tying run at second and 1 away. Swing and a miss. 2-2.
Fastball or curveball, what's he go with?
Fouled back, it was a fastball. Mauer on deck. Two and two to Dozier. 3-2. Ryan Presley in case the Twins get one, but not two. Wins the last 2 nights. The Twins need to get one just to stay alive tonight. Popped up, backing out of play. Rain coming down harder now. At least it's not snowing.
Not yet. Stan Dickman was here earlier, our fantasy camp coordinator and owner, said it was snowing in South Dakota.
Over Spearfish, the Black Hills area, right? 3-2 to Brian Dozier. Struck him out, 2 down, and it'll be left to Mauer.
Allen stayed with that fastball and got one past Bryant. Fastball down. They intentionally walked Joe Mauer last night to get to Sano.
Different situation because the game was tied. In this case, Mauer would be the go-ahead run. And here comes Mickey Callaway. He wants to talk with Allen. You wouldn't dare walk Mauer here with Sano on deck, would you?
We'll see what they decide to do.
Take a look at what's next. Brought to you by Century Link. An off day tomorrow. Michael Fulmer will make his major league debut. Shane Green has a blister issue. They put him on the disabled list a little while ago. Phil Hughes will go for the Twins. And the rain, while Callaway's on the mound, is coming down harder and harder.
Lance Diaz, the home plate umpire, right there. Making sure everybody hurries up.
Two walks for Mauer. Looking for his first hit. Inside ball one.
Mauer against Allen, 1 for 3 with a couple walks. Actually 3 walks now, 1 intentional last night.
On the outside corner, 2 walks tonight. Mauer already has 20 walks on the season. 5 of them have been intentional.
And only 8 strikeouts in 75 plate appearances.
Good hitters on that list, and Mauer hoping for a hit here. Inside 2-1.
Both fastballs he's thrown him, the first one and that one, both have been inside, and then the curveball away for the strike. Once again, now sitting away, another curveball.
2-2.
Joe's going to have to hit the curveball. Hopefully he can hang it like he did to Santana.
2-2 to Mauer. Tapped foul.
And there was the curveball, fouled off.
That's how you win batting championships. Over the course of time, having productive at bats with 2 strikes. Allen's 23rd pitch. Popped up, and it'll spin back into the seats.
Tried to surprise him with a fastball, and Joe fouled it off. Let's go, Joe.
Another 2-2 to Joe Mauer. Another foul ball. Sano hoping for a chance. Mauer, of course, can send everyone home with a home run. Should score from second on a hit to the outfield. Three and two. Three two-strike fouls.
You mentioned last night, Allen very stingy as far as giving up home runs, only 2 all of last year.
Full count to Mauer. A drive to center. Naquin back, and he's got room to make the catch and end the game. Fairly well hit ball, but Mauer is retired, and tonight it's the Indians winning by 1 run. Tom Hanneman and the Twins saw a glimpse of the future with Jose Barrios making the start, but they end up taking the series but not completing the sweep.
Dick, the Twins fall short of equaling the franchise record for consecutive walk-off wins, but indeed they do take the series. Up next on Twins Live, presented by CenturyLink. We'll break down the entire evening and hear from Paul Molitor. That's coming up next.